Okay, so let's start with the next chapter, which is code optimization. In the last class, I have taught up to the intermediate code generation. Over there, we already had understood what is meant by three-address code, the DAG construction, syntax tree construction, quadruples, triples, and indirect triples construction. So, three-address code, which was used in the previous lecture, how the three-address code is obtained from a particular experiment, that kind of information will always be required in this chapter because it deals with optimizing a particular code. So what is meant by code optimization? In order to create an efficient target language program, a programmer needs to more optimize the code. So in that case, an optimizing compiler is the first requirement. Code optimization produces an optimized code, and thus the execution also occurs faster. This leads to efficient memory usage, which yields better performance. Users should also focus on the usage of choosing a faster or less memory intensive algorithm. Hence, this can lead to some optimizations leading to the production of an optimized code, which will help us in reducing the compilation time, as well as improvement in the code will also be made. The code optimizer is located in between the front end and the code generator. If you see the flowchart of the different phases of the compiler design, you will see that after intermediate code generation occurs, code optimization comes into play, and after that comes the code generation. The intermediate code which is produced in the previous phase is worked with in this kind of in this phase, which is code optimization. In code optimization, we can do data flow analysis, we can perform control flow analysis, and some transformations can be done to improve the intermediate code. Means the intermediate code which had been generated in the previous chapter, in the previous phase, that intermediate code can be transformed in such a way so as to produce some optimized code. The criteria for code improving transformations are that the best program transformations are those that yield the most benefit for the least effort. So the transformations provided by an optimizing compiler should have certain properties. The transformation must preserve the meaning of a program. The optimization must not change the output produced by a program for a given input. The transformation must, on an average, speed up programs by a measurable amount. Sometimes we are just interested in reducing the space taken by the compiled code, although the size of the code has less importance than once it had. Some transformations can be applied after detailed, often time-consuming analysis of the source program, so that there is some little point in applying them to programs that will be run only a few times. So there are certain basic criteria, like on which kind of transformations we can apply to a particular code. We must apply those kind of transformations such that the meaning of the program must always remain correct, and there can be some average speed up. Okay, so the optimizations must be done based on these kind of transformations. So in order to get a better performance, we can make some potential improvements in the user and the compiler end. The user can improve the profile program or change the algorithm or transform the loops. In this case of source code over here, when the user writes the source code, the user can itself change the algorithm or transform the loops in order to optimize the source code. In the front end, this kind of change can be done in order to get some better performance in our target generation. Intermediate code, when the intermediate code is generated, the compiler comes into play over there. The role of compiler over there can come in the place of intermediate, after intermediate code generation, the code optimization. The compiler can improve the loops or the procedure calls, and some address calculations can be optimized after this intermediate code is generated in this code optimization phase. And in the target code, when after the target code is generated, the compiler can also use certain registers and select instructions and certain peephole optimization. Peephole optimization is a different kind of code optimization. We'll deal with this at the end of the chapter. So this kind of transformations, this kind of improvements can be made by the compiler in order to get a better performance than previous, as the compiler would produce. So the organization of an optimizing compiler, the code optimizer, where it will exist in between the front end and the code generator. So this is the location of our code optimizer, and the code optimizer performs this kind of functions, which is control flow analysis, data flow analysis, and certain transformations. So the code optimizer mainly deals with these three functions, and it is located between the front end and the code generator. So after we generate our intermediate code, comes the code optimizer. The code optimizer optimizes the code, and then comes our code generator, which generates our required target code, which is our output of the source code, basically the output of our compiler. Okay, so the basic idea, what is code optimizer, what is the role of code optimizer, I hope it is very clear to you now. Okay, so let's move on. The organization, as shown in this previous diagram, the code optimizer, the operations are needed to implement certain high-level constructs. They are made explicitly in the intermediate code, so it is possible to optimize them. And the intermediate code, they can be relatively independent of the target machine, so that the optimizer does not have to change much if the code generator is replaced by another machine. So intermediate code, which is generated by the intermediate code generation phase, that is it is totally independent, means be it any type of language, the intermediate code is the same. Only the code generator, the back-end part, is going to be changed in each kind of language. In code optimization, certain programs, the programs can be represented by flow graphs. In flow graphs, we have graphical representation. The graphical representation, a graph, you already know, it consists of certain nodes and edges. In case of this code optimizer, the programs which are represented by flow graphs, there will be also certain edges and certain nodes, where the edges will represent the flow of control and the nodes will represent the basic blocks. So in this lecture particularly, I'll stress on what is basic block and what is meant by flow graph, how to construct a basic block, and from there how to construct our corresponding flow graphs. So suppose you are given one example. This particular example is given in your book also. So if this example is considered, you see this is the code for quicksort. Over here you see that you already know what quicksort does. The function of quicksort is written over here. It is a recursive function, and the corresponding 3 address code, if you are asked to generate the corresponding 3 address code for this particular function, then the 3 address code will be looking like this, something like this. So we are considering certain temporary variables T1, T2, T3 over here. You can see that T1, T2, T3 are not over here. The first thing which we are doing is I is equal to m minus 1. Over here you see I is equal to m minus 1. The initializations are done, and then all these things I had explained in the last class, last video lecture. I had explained that how 3 address code is particularly generated. I hope this will be very clear to you up to by now, that how we are going to generate a 3 address code. So we are replacing our this kind of C language code by codes which will contain at most 3 addresses. Each statements will contain at most 3 addresses, nothing more than that. Okay, so you can see that there are some conditional statements also over here, like in line number 8 we see if T3 is less than V, go to 5. So this is a conditional statement. Line number 12 is also a conditional statement. 13 also the conditional statement, and all these are some conditional jumps will occur. In case of this line number 22, you see this is an unconditional jump. If not any condition is given, you just go to 5. Okay, so the corresponding 3 address code for this particular C code is this. Okay, so how we construct the basic block. So what is actually a basic block? Basic block is a sequence of consecutive statements in which the flow of control enters the beginning and leaves at the end without any halt or possibility of branching at the end. The graphical representation of the 3 address statement is called a flow graph, which is useful for generation in the code generation algorithms. The nodes in the flow graph represent the computations or the basic blocks, and the edges represent the flow of control. So first thing what we have to do, if we are given a C code or any code, we have to translate that C code into tree address code. Then from that tree address code, we have to identify what are our basic blocks. After that, from this after identifying what basic blocks we get, we have to see what is the flow of control from one basic block to another basic block. By that way, we can construct our flow graph. Okay, so the algorithm for partitioning into basic blocks, we are given a sequence of three address statements. The output will be a list of basic blocks with each three address statement exactly one block. The method is, we first determine the set of leaders. Leaders means the first statement of any basic block. Okay, the first statement of a basic block is a leader. Any statement that is the target of any conditional or unconditional jump or a go-to statement is also a leader. Any statement that immediately follows a go-to or a conditional go-to statement, that is also a leader. Like over here you see that over here the statement which is in the beginning, this is a leader, means statement number 1 is a leader. Okay, so according to this algorithm, this method, first statement is a leader. So the first statement is I is equal to m minus 1, this is a leader. Next we see any statement that is the target of a conditional or unconditional go to is a leader. So from I, we are going from line number 1, we are going 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. When we reach 8, we see there is a conditional jump. So what is given in this method, any statement that is the target of a conditional or unconditional go to or an unconditional jump is a leader. So this statement is a conditional jump whose target is 5. So line number 5 will also be a leader. So line number 5, line number 1 is a leader, means the first statement of our basic block. Suppose basic block 1. We'll name the basic blocks, basic block 1, basic block 2, a program or a tree address code for a particular program. It will consist of several basic blocks depending upon your code. What the tree address code looks like, depending on that, we'll consider how many basic blocks we get. So if we get in this quicksort code up to now, over here we see that if T3 is less than V, go to 5. This 5 is also comprising a leader. So statement 1 is the leader comprising of the first statement of basic block B1. Statement 2 is not a leader. Statement 3 is not a leader. Statement 4 is not a leader, because none of these are the target of any conditional or unconditional jump, right? So they will be in the same basic block as that of the first statement. So 1, 2, 3, 4, all these 4 statements will be in one basic block. As this 5 is the target of a conditional jump, over here we see that this particular statement is a leader. So over here we see that any statement that is the target of a conditional or unconditional go to is a leader. Any statement that immediately follows a conditional or unconditional go to statement is also a leader. Okay, so line number 8 is the conditional or unconditional go to statement. So any statement that follows the conditional or unconditional go to statement is also a leader. So line number 9 is also a leader. So we get the third basic block. So first basic block comprises from line number 1 to 4. Second basic block comprises from line number 5 to line number 8. Third basic block comprises of our first, the leader is line number 9, and you see over here we go up to line number 12, because line number 9, it's also the follower of, it's following one conditional jump, and it is also the target of another line. So in line number 12 you see it is go to 9. So this line number 9 is also a leader in this case. So another basic block is line number 9 to line number 12. Like this we will go on constructing, we will go on checking how many basic blocks are there. Okay. Next basic block will be this line number 23. So if I is greater than equal to j, go to 23. So line number 12 is a conditional jump. So the following statement will also be a leader, because in this method it's written any statement that immediately follows a go-to statement or unconditional go-to statement is a leader. So line number 13 is following the conditional statement. So line number 13 is a leader, and it also directs to go to 23. So line number 23 is also a leader of another basic block. Like this way, this particular 3 address code of quicksort fragment will comprise of several basic blocks. We will show how many basic blocks at the end. Till now, I hope you have understood how to consider a basic block. What is the exact meaning of a basic block? So you see now if you read the definition, what is a basic block? It's a sequence of consecutive statements in which flow of control enters the beginning and leaves at the end without a halt or possibility of branching at the end. Okay, so when a branching occurs, it falls in another basic block. So basic block is a particular sequence of consecutive statements in which the flow of control enters the beginning and leaves at the end. Okay, so the method for finding how many basic blocks are there in a particular 3 address code is this first method, and for each leader, its basic block consists of the leader and all statements up to but not including the next leader or end of the program. So I like this, what I told, that the line number 1 is a leader, and it will consist, the basic block B1 will consist of line number 1, 2, 3 and also 4. So the second point is that for each leader, its basic block consists of leader and all statements up to but not including the next leader. So line number 1 is the first leader, line number 5 is the second leader. So all the statements up to line number 4 will be in the first basic block. That is the meaning of this second point. Okay. So a basic block computes a set of expressions, and these expressions are the values of the names which live on the exit from the block. Two basic blocks are said to be equivalent if they compute the same set of expressions. Suppose we have two basic blocks, but they compute the same set of expressions, so they are called to be equivalent. A number of transformations can also be applied to a basic block without changing the set of expressions computed by the block. Certain structure preserving transformations such as common sub-expression elimination, dead code elimination, renaming of temporary variables and interchange of independent adjacent statements. So there are certain transformations. So how we can optimize a basic block? So certain transformations can be applied to basic blocks. So one of the transformation is common sub-expression elimination. We can eliminate the common sub-expressions like this. If we have the 3 address code, we see that A equal to B plus C, and again C is equal to B plus C. Okay, so B is equal to A minus D, and again D is equal to A minus D. So B is equal to A minus D, and this D, see over here, we are not changing the value of this B plus C. We cannot write A over here. C is equal to B plus C, we have to write it because the value of B is updated in the second line. But in this case, this B is equal to A minus D, the value of neither A nor D is ever updated. Right? After this, the value of A and D remains as it was. So we can just write D is equal to B. So we can eliminate a common sub-expression. Okay? So this is how we can perform transformation on basic blocks. Dead code elimination is another transformation. Suppose X is a dead variable that is never used, but there it is in the code. That particular statement which is not used can be safely removed. We can also rename some temporary variables, transform a basic block into an equivalent block in which each statement defines a temporary value which defines a new temporary. Okay? So this kind of optimizations can be done on basic blocks. There can be some interchange of statements between one statement. We can change the sequence of statements without affecting the result. Okay, we can interchange the two statements without affecting the value of the block. Okay, we can replace some algebraic transformations like multiplication operations are considered. This over here, you can see that the useful ones are those that simplify expressions or replace expensive operations by cheaper ones. So this is one multiplication operations are considered over here in case of exponential operation, this is y to the power 2. So exponential operation is much more costlier. So we are replacing exponential operation by multiplication operation. Simple arithmetic, simple algebraic transformations are applied in order to optimize our code. So what is flow graph? Flow graph comes after the construction, flow graph comes after the identification of our basic blocks. Okay, so flow of control information to the set of basic blocks making up a program by constructing a directed graph is called flow graph. The nodes are the basic blocks, and one node is distinguished as initial. It is the block whose leader is the first statement, and there will be certain flow from basic blocks to one basic block to another basic block. If there is a flow from one basic block to another basic block, that means there is a conditional or some unconditional jump from a basic block 1 to a basic block 2. So if there is an arrow from B1 to B2, means B1 is the predecessor of B2 and B2 is the successor of B1. So how to draw flow graph? Suppose this is a simple program for computing our dot product. Now we have to convert this program into our 3-address code. Suppose our 3-address code is like this. So for this particular 3-address code, you can identify how many basic blocks. So see over here, always the first statement is our leader. So the first basic block will consist of this first statement, which is our leader. Now we are seeing that in the following statements 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, we are not finding any jump, right? Not any conditional jump or any unconditional jump. Last statement consists of a conditional jump. So the target of our conditional jump is 3, line number 3. So none of the other statements consist of any jump, only the last statement consists of a jump. So basically we'll get 2 basic blocks over here in this particular 3-address code. The first basic block will consist of the 2 statements, line number 1 and 2, and the second basic block will consist of the statements from line number 3 to line number 12, because in line number 12 we see if I is less than equal to 20, go to 3. So if we go to 3 over here, we see that this is the leader. Okay, according to the method for construction of basic blocks, this is the leader. And if you see the leader is this, then we continue from 4, 5, 6, none of the statements have any jump, so it will end up to here. And there are no statements also following 12. If any statement would be there after 12, line number 13 would also be a leader because it is following a conditional jump, right? So in this case, we get 2 basic blocks. Basic block 1 consists of line number 1 and 2, and basic block 2 consists of line number 3 to 12. Right? So how to draw the flow graph for this? The corresponding flow graph will be, this is the basic block B1 consisting of 2 statements, and this is the basic block B2 consisting of line number 3 to line number 12. So the arrows are given like this. Basic block B1 is the predecessor of basic block B2 because the flow is after B1 comes in this B2. So there's an arrow from B1 to B2. And there is a arrow from B2 to B2 itself, because over here you see that there is a conditional jump that in line number 12, where I is less than 20, go to 3. So it will go to itself, right? Because it is in the same basic block, this line, go to 3, this line is in the same basic block. And the rest of the program, this arrow is not mandatory. Okay, so 2 basic blocks are there. So B1 and B2. So like this, in the previous we had how many basic blocks? For this particular quicksort code, we had a 3-address code. So how many basic blocks? We have to see. See, this is the corresponding flow graph. We had how many basic blocks? We had 6 basic blocks. Okay. So I had already discussed how the basic blocks have come. So B1, B2, B3, B4, B5, B6. Why B4 is consisting of only one line? Because over here you see that over here this if this particular, what is this B4 consisting of? If I is greater than equal to j, then if I is greater than equal to j, then go to 23. So this is our line number 13, and this is following our conditional jump. So this is a leader, and again line number 14 is the follower of our conditional jump. So this will also be another leader, right? So this statement will be one basic block. So the flow of control will go from one basic block to other basic block. See how it is going from basic block 1, we are going to basic block 2. In basic block 2, we have up to line number 8. So B2 will flow to itself, right? So B2 will flow to itself. So there is a self loop from B2 to B2. Again from B3. So this is the first statement of B3. So if T5 is greater than V, go to B3. So another self loop. See why there is a loop from this, in this basic block B5, why there is a loop from B5 to B2, because in the last statement you have go to B2. So go to, over here you see, okay, in the last statement you have go to B2, so that is why you are going to this arrow is from B5 to B2. So after this statement B4, basic block B4, comes another basic block B5 and another basic block B6. So you can already understand over here that after this particular statement, the basic blocks will start from line number 14 and it will go to up to this line number 22, because this is a conditional jump, go to 5. Okay, so go to 5 means this basic block 2. That is why there is a jump, or there is an arrow from B5 to B2. So B5 comprises of the lines 15 to 22. B6 comprises of the lines 23 to 30. Okay. After you construct this tree address code for a particular fragment, you try to draw a corresponding flow graph. I will suggest you, without seeing the last slide of this particular presentation, you try to draw the flow graph your own. I hope you will understand from there. The tree address code for this particular dot product was very simple. Over here you had only 2 basic blocks, but over here you can get 6, you are getting 6 basic blocks. How you are getting, how the flow of information will occur from one basic block to other basic block, that is very simple, but just you have to go on practicing. So in exam, questions will come, you will be given a particular code or a tree address code. From that you may be asked what are the corresponding basic blocks and flow graphs, or short notes on basic blocks and flow graphs. Okay, so in this particular lecture I have made you understand what is meant by, what is the importance of tree address code, how it helps us in the generation of basic blocks, and from that how we can generate our flow graphs, and what are the different transformations which have been applied to our basic blocks, the common sub-expression elimination, dead code elimination, the interchange of statements, so the algebraic transformations. So this kind of transformations can be applied to our basic blocks in order to optimize it. Okay, so in the next video lecture we will continue with this chapter. I hope you have understood up to now. Okay, thank you.